So, folks, hopefully you enjoyed the first little podcast I made. Here's the second one. It pretty much continues on. Gerry the Grumpy Guide's Guide to Modern Ireland and what makes him even more grumpy. So, I suppose in the first episode I was talking largely about modern politics and how and I don't think it's only me, but a lot of people, I don't feel represented anymore by, I've really struggled to vote over the last 3 or 4 years, European and national elections. And I just think something has fundamentally changed in society since, I think COVID was the start of it. I have to say, if there's another lockdown, unless it's bubonic plague, I'm sorry, I'm not going with it.
God forbid.
Human beings are very basic creatures and we need human contact.
Yeah.
And COVID was effectively a solitary prison sentence for 2 years for the population of Ireland. I think it's done huge damage to people. And I think it's what happens when our COVID programme, I think, looking back on it now, I will say, look, it was a horrible situation to be in and it can't have been easy. And especially early on, it was scary for a lot of people looking at places like Northern Italy where it really did, terrible damage for older people especially. But for 2 years, Ireland had two policies, in my opinion. Either we'd have a lockdown, or when we didn't have a lockdown, we'd wait till we had enough excuses to have another lockdown. There was nothing else.
Didn't we have the longest lockdown in the world?
We did, yeah, that's generally acknowledged. And we came out somewhere around the middle in terms of losses. There's a couple of interesting things about COVID. The average person who died from COVID was 85. Life expectancy in Ireland is 84.
Yeah.
And also the two places you were most likely to die from COVID were hospitals and nursing homes. So while our health authorities demanded extremely high standards of everyone else, they weren't terribly good at imposing the same standards in their own places. But basically for 2 years, the medical establishment had the ear of the government and nobody else really got much of a look in.
Yeah.
It's another example of what we call groupthink.
Mm.
If you employ medical experts, they'll say, and only medical experts, they'll say protect the health system. If you employ the army, they'll say shoot everybody. That'll solve the problem. If you employ teachers, they'll say everybody needs to go to school, etc., etc., etc. And that's what we did. We employed medical experts and they had two solutions, lockdown or let's have another lockdown. It's pretty one-dimensional. But it's an example of this modern world we seem to be in, the groupthink world,
agree
the experts.
In a room, go home.
Yeah. It makes for an easier, shorter meeting.
Yeah, doesn't it?
And like I said, it's a lousy choice, but experience was in other countries that, there were other ways of doing things. It seems like we didn't. Here's an interesting thing. Ireland's one of the least densely populated countries in Western Europe.
Wow.
When you get outside of Dublin,
yeah,
we are broadly on a par with Scandinavia.
Yeah.
You really don't catch COVID outdoors. You really don't.
Yeah.
And yet we closed down our building sites.
Yeah.
That was a really bad decision.
Yeah.
That meant a large number of building workers left the country.
Yeah. And what needs building here anyway?
Well, that's the thing, you see. Building workers aren't the sort of guys to say, oh, that's grand, 6 months on the dole or whatever. That's fine.
Yeah.
They're not like that. They're young, predominantly fit, healthy guys, and they do
outside.
Yeah, they like what they do. And you know what? If the building sites in London or Munich or Copenhagen or wherever it might be are still open, that's where we'll go.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And a lot of them haven't come back.
Yeah.
So, but again, I think it's the problem of modern, not just Ireland, but modern Western societies. You hire a group of people who largely have similar opinions. It makes for quicker meetings and we can all agree. And we're all experts and we all have
agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always remember something Michael O'Leary said about, 10 or 12 years ago on a program he was on, and he said, if you offer me somebody out of college with a business degree and somebody with 10 or 12 years of experience of working in a shop or whatever environment it may, I know which one I'll take every time.
Yeah.
And he meant the person with the experience.
Very true.
I think that's largely gone now, and
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good thing.
No, no.
When I left school in the 80s, maybe a couple of people in class went to college. There was no point going to college because there weren't the jobs there. That's all changed. We now have one of the highest percentage of people going to third level in the Western world, and that's a good thing, but it's also led, I think, to this very much, let me see your letters after your name.
Yeah.
And on that basis, you're hired. Yeah, you absolutely need people like that, but you also need a broad range of people.
Yeah.
I thought COVID was a classic example of it, but I do think there is a bigger issue in Ireland. And it's not just in Ireland, it's in much of the Western world. We have a state bureaucracy that I don't think either can and very possibly doesn't want to upgrade, update and deal with the 21st century.
Yeah.
We've increased the number of civil servants in the last 10 years by 50%. And there's nothing to show for that.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how we've now got about 50,000 civil servants, as opposed to public servants who are your school teachers and your nurses and your police and your fire service. They're the public servants. You absolutely need them.
Yeah.
I don't know what 50,000 civil servants are doing, because my own experience in the last 10, 15 years is I now, as much as I possibly can, avoid dealing with the state because it's slow and it sort of never really works out to my advantage. Yeah. Now, again, I'm a single guy in my 50s. I can handle that.
You were saying earlier, it's a privilege to not have to deal with the state too much.
I dread a letter with an envelope coming through my door because it's never good news.
Yeah.
It's never good news. But what I really feel for is people who have no choice but to deal with the state a lot. As a general rule, they tend to be less well off and are struggling with maybe special needs in the house or their carers. Our state treats them abysmally.
Don't they? Yeah.
And our country calls itself a republic. And I'd always believed that a republic is a country where at least nominally everyone's equal.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't achieve that, I'm not sure you ever can. You should certainly be aiming at that. Anyone with special needs in the family, anyone with, as I say, caring or whatever it might be, God love them. Dealing with the state's a nightmare.
Oh, stop, yeah.
And it's gotten worse. And yet there's 50% more civil servants than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, I have a little list here of my experiences with the state going back 15 years.
Fire away.
Okay, 2010, I broke a rib. Slipped on ice and snow in the middle of winter. From when I was...
That's when we had the snow, wasn't it? 2010?
Yeah, we had a big fall of snow early in the new year. From when I was put in an ambulance approximately 7 p.m. to when I was x-rayed to see if I had a punctured lung was 15 hours.
Crazy.
Well, if you know about medicine, you'll know that if you puncture your lung after 15 hours, you will be dead. You will be dead.
Yeah.
Brown bread, I was going to say. Yeah, so that wasn't brilliant. But what I do remember about that night is if you were high on drugs or drink, you got priority in A&E, which I wasn't very impressed with.
No, I
remember a young girl, maybe 13, 14, brought in with severe abdominal pain. Rough guess, kidney or gallstones. You eat a lot of food at Christmas and your system doesn't process it and something gets stuck.
That's terrible,
it's,
man.
It's horrendously painful.
Rough.
This girl was screaming in pain. She came in about 10 o'clock at night with her mum, and at about 4 o'clock in the morning I noticed she wasn't there anymore. Now maybe I don't know, maybe she was treated. But maybe her mum just gave up and went home. But certainly come in on drink and drugs, you get priority, because apparently they make more noise. And the trick is to keep going up and banging on reception. Anyway, that was my experience of A&E. And if I ever need A&E again, I will go to the airport and catch a flight to Holland. Or I won't put myself through that. 2015, I think it was about then, the local property tax came in. And I wrote a letter to the revenue and I said, okay, I have an issue with this because it's based on the value of your house. I've no intention of selling my house. Therefore, I think it's unfair because I live in Dublin, so my house price is inflated. Anyway, and also there's nothing local to it because the tax just goes into I mean, I live in Dublin, the only capital city in Western Europe where I can't elect a mayor. So what am I... Okay, that was my...
Yeah.
You know, I didn't get a reply. I didn't get an acknowledgement. Now, once upon a time, there was a rule: if you wrote a letter to our civil service,
you should hear back.
You should. No, that seems to have... That's gone as well. Not only do you not get a reply, you don't even get an acknowledgement of your letter. So that was around about 2015. 2020, in comes the pandemic. I'm out of work. There's no tour guiding.
Tours.
Okay, I was cut off the payment twice. The first time for not having got the documents in on time. Not correct, I did, but somebody in there lost them and then blamed me, so I was cut off. And then the second time, I was told to provide proof that I was looking for employment as a tour guide.
Yeah.
So just think about that for a moment. So somebody with a permanent pensionable Monday to Friday, going to retire at 60 job, decided that I wasn't looking for a job.
Yeah, that's...
So I was cut off. Again, I went in and kicked up a stink, and I basically said, well, I want to meet the person who made the decision. And they said, you can't do that. And I said, no, I can, because they're a public servant. Yeah. So they're paid by the taxpayer. So if you don't give me the name, I'll find out myself through the Freedom of Information Act and go down and talk to them. They're in Wexford, I was told. Oh. I says, I couldn't care if they're in Ballydehob. I'll go and meet them face to face. They've just made a life-affecting decision. So in the end, this guy goes into an office and there's a conversation for a few minutes, which I can see. And then comes out and says, I think I can have your payment restored next week.
Okay, very good.
So that was that. 2021, during COVID, my mum passed away. Actually, not from COVID. And we had a cremation service for her, and a little man wheedled up beside me and said there was too many people at the cremation service, even though it was outdoors, and I was to tell them all to leave.
That's a joke.
Not he was. He was the one getting paid. I said, why don't you do your job?
Yeah, good.
And you tell them to leave, because I'm not going to do it. 2023, I claimed unemployment benefit. I was made redundant at the end of the tourist season. I had a kind of one regular job. I said I'd be out of work for about 10 or 12 weeks till Patrick's Day comes around again. And I was told that there was a hairdressing course available, and was I going to do that? In other words, you're not getting the dole. Yeah. And I just said, okay, that's fine. We won't worry about it, lads. I've paid tax and social insurance for almost 40 years. I'm looking for 10 to 12 weeks unemployment, and I'm not getting it. And the irony was, I worked in a part of Dublin where the adult male unemployment rate is over 50%.
Mad.
And I was looking for unemployment benefit or unemployment assistance or whatever it's called for 10 to 12 weeks. Right. And basically, no. 2024, I refused to pay a TV licence.
Yeah.
Or buy one, because the whole scandal came out. Not so much about Ryan Tubridy.
Oh, yeah.
And what he was getting paid, but how little the researchers were getting paid on these programs that you watch, like Primetime.
Yeah.
They're getting paid 15, 20 grand a year. And yet there's all these guys with big, long titles.
Yeah.
On big six-figure salaries. So I wrote a letter saying, this is scandalous. As a taxpayer and TV licence holder, I don't agree with this. If you can explain why all these people are paid so much when the people who do the actual work are paid very little, then I'll think about buying a licence.
There you go.
Once again, I got no reply.
Yeah.
But 4 days later, I got a reminder that I hadn't bought a TV licence. Now, famously, RTE don't collect the licence. On PUS do.
Really?
So the only way that can have happened is somebody in RTE acknowledged or wrote to somebody in on PUS and said, that fella hasn't paid his licence, send him out another reminder. Absolute and total, dyed in the wool, clear breach of data protection laws.
Yeah.
No reply. So I'm up in court in September for not having a television licence.
Jeez.
Okay. I was up in court in 2023. God, I'm turning into a hardened criminal. Because I didn't pay my COVID fine.
What's the COVID fine?
Well, in March 2021, I was sitting on my own on the boardwalk compiling an outside quiz for my road, which is a cul-de-sac. So no traffic coming through. We agreed we'd have a quiz on the road for St. Patrick's Day. A few days coming up. And I would write the questions because my head is full of absolutely useless, trivial information.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to channel that is to set quizzes. So we were going to have an outdoor quiz. So there I am compiling the quiz, and I'm in town, and I'm sitting on the boardwalk. I'm comfortably not within 10 metres of anyone on either side.
Yeah.
And the next thing I noticed is two police.
There's Garda out.
Two bang Garda.
Fix your hair, chap.
And they took my name and they said I'd be getting a fine.
Yeah. And they're probably linking arms together, the two of them, like.
Well,
foot between them.
I do know that they were doing this all day, walking up and down the boardwalk and sending people away from the boardwalk, and within 5 minutes the boardwalk was filling up again.
Yeah.
It was a bit ridiculous, to be honest. Anyway, I got issued with a fine. I got threatened that if I didn't pay the fine, I'd be seeing the inside of Mountjoy Prison, etc., etc. I didn't pay the fine. I went to court. The guards were not there. The case was put back. But what was really amazing about it was the COVID restrictions were lifted in January 2021. Sorry, January 2022.
Okay.
The letter from the DPP's office came in May 2023.
2023.
So 16 months after the restrictions were lifted, somebody in the DPP's office made a decision. We still want that little to pay his €100 fine.
Isn't it?
I found that extraordinary. What got me about that was the complete and total lack of common sense. In the old days, some guy like me in his 50s would have said, I tell you what you can do with that now. You can roll that up into a ball and chuck it into the waste paper basket.
100%.
But again, it didn't happen. Didn't pay his fine. Let's go after him. Let's go after him.
I don't get that.
I don't get it either. And I throw one name at you.
Go on.
John Delaney. Have you heard of him?
John Delaney. Who's he?
John Delaney was the secretary of the FAI. And
I was about to say the football, yeah.
15 years and more, people were pretty sure that there was a lot of dodgy stuff going on. In the end, he was finally outed. He used our very out-of-date libel laws for a decade and a half to defend himself. And in the end, they called his bluff. A pair of journalists from one of our newspapers. There's a great book about it called Champagne Football. Strongly recommend it. John Delaney effectively cost the FAI somewhere between about 50 and 80 million euros.
Holidays, was it?
In everything, in terms of money lost and money badly spent and all the rest of it. That's what he's cost the FAI, which a lot of it will be passed on to the taxpayer.
He should see the inside of Mountjoy.
Well, you'd think that. He hasn't even been charged, but they went after me for €100.
Yeah.
If you want to lose the approval of the people, the way...
Work away, like...
Yeah, go after people like me for €100 fine from a year and a half earlier.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. It's a very small thing, but I think it's very typical of the way modern Ireland is.
Yeah, that's new. Like, we're not like that.
Where's the common sense gone?
Yeah.
And to bring it back to my friends in the civil service, you cannot have people in jobs with no accountability. It's a dream scenario for the individual.
Yeah.
In terms of running a country in the 21st century, it's turned into a nightmare. Our civil service is a shambles. I'm sorry to be...
No, 100%.
But they are, especially at the top end, they are paid huge amounts of money. They can retire at 60. They often go on to other boards and very well paid jobs. The number has gone up 50% in 10 years. And the standard of bureaucracy in public services has dropped.
Yeah.
It's and nobody. Not only is nobody tackling it, it's barely being mentioned. There's one or two people in the Dáil, but they're very much mavericks and loners.
Yeah.
You cannot run a 21st century modern international country with something that belongs somewhere back in the 18th century. Yeah. It doesn't work. And the gap between the two is getting wider and wider. And nobody seems to want to even address it. It's another one of these issues that's going completely unaddressed.